Hi, this is Craig. Just want to let you know you can now advertise here on Everyone Loves Guitar podcast. For more information, go to everyonelovesguitar.com/advertise. That's everyonelovesguitar.com/advertise. Hey, everybody, this is Craig Garber. Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar, and I've got a really special guest today. I've got one of my own guitar heroes, really great musician who plays with a great band, and he's not just a great guitarist, but he's also a great writer, and he's got a really big catalog. We're with Boris De Piante. He is the lead guitar player and primary songwriter from the band Monkey3. Excuse me. And if you're not familiar with Monkey3, they are and I hate to categorize, it would be fair to say stoner, progressive rock, and psychedelic blues-based rock. Is that, I hate to put things in boxes, but is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, it's pretty fair. Let's add some space rock into it.
Yeah, and space rock. That's right. Anyway, Monkey3 is a great band. I've been a fan of theirs since the early 2000s when they released their first album. They have mostly instrumental songs, very, very intense music, long songs, very cool jams, and as I said, Boris is a great songwriter, so he does a really good job of taking you on a journey and building up several climaxes within a song. Boris is originally from, I hope I don't mess this up, Lausanne?
Yeah, Lausanne.
Lausanne, Switzerland. His parents were actually Italian, and he grew up listening to a lot of classic rock music, started playing guitar at age 17. In his early playing years, he played actually in a Latin rock band with his friends, and they did a few classic rock covers, playing in bars, caves, and stuff like that. I'm going to ask him what a cave is. During the late 90s and the early 2000s, he was in a jam session community, and that's where he met the guys that later became the band Monkey3. They recorded their first album in early 2003, and honestly, if you want to start anywhere with the band, that first album was just phenomenal. I mean, just fucking amazing, man. It's 9 songs. It's probably an hour and 15 minutes long or something like that. Let's see, I'll tell you exactly how long it is. 9 songs, yeah, an hour and 4 minutes long. It's a great record, just incredible. And it's a self-titled album, so it's the album Monkey3. And right after that record was done, he left Switzerland and went to Guitar Institute, which was now Musician Institute, but he went to GIT in Hollywood, California. He left Switzerland. He graduated from Guitar Institute in 2004, went back to Switzerland, started touring around Europe with Monkey3, and they're still producing records and touring. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's what I got on my iTunes anyway. Is it 8 EPs and LPs? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, and they're getting ready to put out another one that we'll talk about today. Excuse me. He also has other projects. He's been a part of the Swiss rock bands Sideburn, and he played with them from 2005 to 2011, and Backwater. He played with them from 2012 to 2015, recording and touring, as well as continuing to play in local classic rock cover bands and working bands. And if you are in Switzerland, he's also an active guitar teacher at Music Arts School in Geneva, so check him out. So if I was there, I'd definitely want to get some neck time with Boris. Dude, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, you're welcome, man. I was talking to Boris. He speaks English, French, and Italian. I was trying to explain how we can't even get English, one language, together here in America. So I think that's really cool. Hey man, what is the music scene like in Switzerland, and how does that compare to the States?
Well, it's really, really different from the US, obviously, because Switzerland is a really small country. So you have a lot less places to play. Obviously, the music business is not as developed as the US. But anyway, we have a lot of bands playing in a lot of different genres. Strong underground scene, mostly in the rock genre. A lot of venues to play for a small country like Switzerland. Unfortunately, music business is not much developed, and also all the medias around underground music, it's pretty tough here. So as a band or as a musician, you need to go out of Switzerland to try to have a career, and at least all around Europe, because staying only in Switzerland, as you could do with the US, when you're an American band, you can stay in the US and it's big enough, But Switzerland, it's not the case. So you need to export yourself in order to have a career, at least to try to have one.
Where have you guys had the best? I don't know if the success is right. Where you tend to be popular outside of Switzerland?
Well, the countries around Switzerland, like Germany, France, Austria, Spain, Italy, Belgium, Netherlands, Greece, and, all the other European countries around Switzerland. But I would say that the biggest one would be Germany, as it's the biggest European country and probably the one with the UK that has the most out of the music business, So you need Germany and UK if you're touring Europe and if you're a European band. It's really important.
There's so much space rock and stoner rock in Northern Europe. Like Switzerland, Netherlands. It's not Switzerland. I'm sorry, Sweden, Netherlands. Do you guys play there, and how do you play? How do the crowds there?
We've never been to Sweden, but in the north part of Europe, like Germany, Netherlands, Belgium, also the UK, there's a nice trend going on with psychedelic rock stuff, stoner rock. I mean, stoner rock came from the US in the late 80s, early 90s, with bands like Monster Magnet, Chaos, Fu Manchu, bands like that. Then it was exported to Europe. But then in Europe, we don't have like the nice Californian desert, but it's different. And in Europe, we have a big tradition of prog rock.
Yeah.
So in Germany, they have the krautrock. So I guess that everything kind of was blended together, and it's working pretty good in Europe, at least in the underground scene, which is the scene that I know better.
Yeah.
That music's pretty popular.
It's funny you mentioned Monster Magnet. I had their the longer term guitar player, Ed Mundell. I had Ed on the show a couple of weeks ago. It was really funny talking to him because they started it all to me, and I used to listen to them with my son, who's 28 now, but when he was a young kid, and we used to I remember sit in the car and listen to Monster Magnet. So after I had the interview, I called him up, my son. I said, hey. So it was just funny, it was like very nostalgic because they've been around a long time,
Yeah, and they're still great.
Great. Really good band. Yeah, really good band.
Like Monster Magnet since the beginning.
I'm gonna, when that interview drops, I'll send it to you because he had some really funny stories that he told about, like they would just like get really high when they were on tour, but they would do really funny things to each other, like they would pull jokes. So I'll send you that interview. It was really good. You mentioned that you played in caves. What is that?
Yeah, basically here in Switzerland, but also in other places in Europe, they are used to build some venues down the buildings, in the basements.
Okay.
And call them caves.
Oh, okay. So it's just a basement of a building, like a basement, an industrial.
No, not really. It's just like a big room in the down part of the building,
Okay.
downstairs, and because we have a lot of those places here in Switzerland, and they used to call them caves because you're down down the
Yeah, no, I got it. I thought it was an actual cave that we were playing in. It makes sense that you call it a cave. Okay, so the first Monkey3 album that you guys made in 2003, as I said earlier, this might be my favorite Monkey3 record. It's great. I was curious how was that received by fans, and also you make this great record and then you left to come to America. What? I'm assuming you didn't expect it to be that good, or what was what happened? What was the events?
Yeah, the story is we were in that jam band community, a bunch of musicians, always high. It was weird at the time, and we were younger, obviously. And we used to meet usually late at night, even if it's early in the morning, and playing all those jams and doing all kind of stuff. And at some point, some of us decided to do something with those jams, and not everyone wanted to do that. So a couple of us tried to make those jams into, let's say, real songs. And we decided to record an album. We weren't even thinking about being a real band after that. It was just, to have something that stayed after all of that. And I was already, I already decided to leave for the US to music school because, I was curious, wanted to have a new experience, and I didn't want to wait too much, but then I would have been maybe too old, so the decision to leave the Switzerland for the US was already made way before we did that record, and basically we did the record like it was, self-production, really underground thing. The album was made in 5 days.
You're fucking kidding me.
No.
Oh my God. And you guys self-produced it? And what about the mastering and on the engineering?
It was all in 5 days.
Oh my God. Had you ever like mixed the record in a studio or anything?
Yeah, we recorded it, and then straight away we mixed it and mastered it, and it was done.
Was that the first thing you've ever mastered and mixed?
We didn't mixed it and mastered it ourselves. We worked with a sound engineer.
Oh, okay.
But wow. we put the money for the record. We didn't have any record company, any deal, nothing. It was like a really intimate thing. And we recorded that, and then I left for the US. And during that time, the other band members, they tried to show that record to some other people. They tried to sell it a little bit, and at the time there was a website, an American website called stonerrock.com.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah,
that's how I found out about you. That had to be because he used to put really cool bands up there, and he disappeared, I think.
I think they still have the mail order, which is all that's
heavy. Yeah, right.
And it was something new back then, that kind of website for stoner rock, and I think he did a great job for the stoner community. I mean,
definitely,
he deserves a lot, I think, because he did a lot for the genre in a period where I don't think a lot of people were really interested in that,
Well, there was no other place. There was nothing highlighting bands from all over the world. That was the great thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I remember that he did a great review of the record, and he was selling the record on his mail order, and from that website, a small record company from Belgium wanted to sign us, you know, and we signed. It was a really small label called Buzzville Records, which is no longer existing now, but you know, it was a start, and the guys were really friendly and cool, and we had great times with them. It's a great memory. We weren't expecting much, you know. The thing is, we just wanted our music to be heard, and then maybe tour a little bit.
Sure.
And that's also a reason why I came back after the GIT. It's why I came back to Switzerland, because we had that record deal, and you know, we wanted the story to go on at that point.
Right.
And you know, we're still here now.
You're still here, man. Was it tough when you were in the States, knowing that you had this record that was a really good record, and I'm assuming the more people heard about it, you were getting great feedback. Was it tough to be away and like doing something you wanted, but not being able to do something else you wanted to do?
Well, it wasn't really tough, because you know, it was important for me, that experience in the US, and you know, I knew back then, I knew that I would have come back to Switzerland, and you know, it was just a matter of time, and I know we would have done something with that anyway.
Okay.
And you know, as the scene was quite tough back then, you know, there weren't many expectations, and you know, to wait a little bit was not a big deal.
Okay. Okay, that's great. Are you patient in general like that?
Not really, but
you seem very zen about it, man. I would have been like, fuck, I got to get over there and do this thing. I would have been driving myself crazy with that. That's cool. When you came over here, what were the biggest, like, was that your first time in the States?
Yes. Yeah.
I give you credit. That's like a lot of courage to do that, man. It's not like, you know, it's tough enough if somebody's in, you know, Miami and they want to go to GIT across the country, but you came across the world, man. That took a lot of balls. That was really I think, cool thing.
Well, it wasn't that difficult, you know, just jump in the plane and, you know. Then when I arrived in Hollywood, you know, the school took care of, well, they still do it. They take care of the foreign students. They help them out to find the flat. And, you know, you're not left alone anyway.
Okay, that's great.
You just attend to the lessons and you do your stuff. Well, the toughest part was English at the beginning.
Oh, because you weren't speaking English back then much.
Well, a little bit, but it was tough. And they weren't really patient. You know, they talk, and if you don't understand, you know,
yeah,
it's your problem. So, yeah, that was one of the most difficult part. I would say it was English, and you know, well, when you get there, it looks similar to Europe. You know, it's not
really
that different, but it's different.
Yeah.
Well, it's really big, obviously, and you know, a lot of habits are different, so you kind of need to get used to it. The way you socialize with people is different. You know, it's at some point it's really different, I would say.
So, what were some of those differences specifically?
Well, I thought that it was pretty hard to be friend with someone. You know, I mean, people are friendly, especially in Hollywood, you know, because you never know what will happen there. But it's superficial, you know, it's not deep.
Yeah.
And I thought that, relationships between people sometimes are difficult
Yeah.
there. I also had the feeling that, everything is really fast in Hollywood. I'm just talking about Hollywood, not the whole US,
Yeah,
like
sure.
the rest of the US. So, but in Hollywood, everything is really fast. Everyone is there because they want to be a star, a rock star, a movie star, whatever. And you're like, I don't know, you feel like you're just a number. You don't even have a name anymore there,
Yeah.
And in Europe, it's not really quite the same. So it was tough to get used to that, I think.
Yeah.
And to be honest, also the how many homeless you have there.
Oh, yeah. You were right down there on Hollywood Boulevard, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
tough.
You don't have
Uh,
that in Europe in general, or specifically in Switzerland, or?
no, we have homeless in Europe too, but uh,
Not to this extent.
yeah, and it's different the way it works. I don't know, it's different. And
When you see a homeless person when you're walking down wherever you are, when you see someone homeless, do you have a sense of empathy for that person, or pity or something?
I don't have pity for people, but I feel sorry for them,
Yeah.
because I don't understand why the system has forget about us.
See, in the States, that is a rare. When you see homeless people here, and maybe it's just because there's so many, it's like a park bench. It's like seeing a park bench. It's almost like the humanity is not attached to them, and I don't know why it's like that. And I think if you are from a smaller town, it might not be like I grew up in New York City. There's nothing but homeless people. So I saw homeless people my whole life, right? So it's not triggering in me because I remember when I was a kid, I was a senior in high school, and there was like a college fair they were having at an just at a big arena, and I remember I was driving in the car with my parents, and a homeless person. We were waiting at a red light. A homeless person pulled down his pants and took a shit right there in the street, and nobody even flinched. It was the strangest thing, man. So I understand what you're saying. If that's not what you're used to, that is weird. I can
But,
understand that being
but
weird.
I mean, we have homeless people here in Europe too. I mean, and some places in Europe are really tough. I mean,
Yeah.
really. But here in Switzerland, not much.
Yeah.
Means that basically in there in the US, when you have nothing, you have nothing.
Yes.
Here in Switzerland, when you have nothing left, the state will help you a little bit. Not
Yeah.
much, but a little bit.
Yeah.
But I guess might be easier here for the state because it's a small country, and I guess it's a lot more easier to put all together, that stuff together.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's tough. There's like 370 million people here.
Yeah, it's as big as whole Europe.
Yes, and I don't know the answer one way or another, but yeah, it is sad when you see that. But that's very interesting. I've heard that as far as several times about not being deep. Specifically from I've talked to a couple of guys from Europe. I don't know. It would be very easy for me to say because I'm an East Coast guy that's a California thing, right? That people there in Hollywood are superficial and shallow. I don't know if they are or not because I wouldn't be speaking from experience. That would be a stereotype. But I do know that when I left New York City to move to Florida, I felt that same thing. I felt that people tended to be very superficial. I felt that it was very hard to make relationships. and I was like starving for better quality conversation that I was getting, and it just wasn't happening. And I don't know why that was. So I don't know if you went to New York, would you find that different? I interviewed a guy from France recently, and he was in New York. This is in the last 15 years, and he said he found that one thing he said, he goes, in France, and maybe it's the same in Switzerland, you invite people over your house. The people come over, they have a meal or drinks. And so he was in New York, and he kept inviting people over to his apartment. And he said, nobody ever invited me anywhere, and I thought they didn't like me. He goes, and I realized nobody invites anybody anywhere. I'm the only person. So I don't, I think there are cultural differences, and I don't know, I don't have an answer. I wish I had a better answer for why you felt some of those ways, because it's unfortunate,
But there are a lot of cultural differences, but I don't think one is better than the other. I mean, just different.
Yeah, right.
You kind of need to get used to it. But at some point, you understand the way it works, and then you can live it. You can have fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it took me a couple of weeks, but then, I felt pretty comfortable there anyway.
Is there anybody you went to school with at GIT that you're still friends with, or that are musicians that people might know?
Well, I didn't met people from Switzerland, so I had a couple of friends. Well, I had a roommate which was a Japanese guy that came back to Japan after the school. We were pretty friends. I got a couple of Italian friends and some teachers that we had good relationships there.
Very cool.
That are teachers there, I guess.
Yeah, that's cool, man. What did you get out of going to GIT for 2 years? What were the biggest takeaways for you?
Well, the first thing was the experience to live a little bit in the US. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was like a life changer. You see something different, another culture. You can really grow up, because you learn something different. But then regarding the school, I mean, the first thing, and probably the most important thing that I learned, because we don't have that much in Switzerland, is that music is a job. You have to be professional, to behave like a professional, and it's not much about how good you are by playing your instrument, but the way you behave, the relationships you have with the people you work with, the understanding of the music business. That's something that you learn by being there. I don't know how much of all of that was useful here in Switzerland, but at least a little bit. I mean, I learned a lot about how to behave as a professional musician. I think that was the biggest part. Then obviously you meet a lot of great musicians that did a lot of great things. They are popular and they know about music and business and everything. So it's important too. You can grow as a musician and as a human being, by meeting those people. So that was really nice and something that I will have inside for all my life.
Yeah. Did you feel when you left that your musical competence and confidence was higher?
Way higher.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. But then when I came back to Switzerland, then I had to face the Swiss reality, and here everything is slower. They have to think 10 times before they take a decision. They have to think about everything always. Not much spontaneous,
Yeah.
And I wanted to do a lot of different bands, just working bands and stuff like that. But here you don't have much bars or stuff, to play live. I mean, here live music, it's more like you have a regular venue with a band that come to play, but stuff like you have in the US, like cover bands everywhere, always, every day, you don't have that much here. So I was frustrated when I came back, but
What made you stay in Switzerland then? How come you had you thought of maybe either moving somewhere else in Europe or coming back to the States?
Well, because with Monkey3 we were based in Switzerland, here in Lausanne, and we had that album out. We wanted to tour for that record, or at least try to do something with that. And our lives were here already, We were here in Switzerland. We had girlfriends and stuff, and and when you live in Switzerland, I mean, you have some comfort here. It's easy to find a job. If you don't have much money, the state help you. Things are working here.
Yeah.
It's tough to leave a rich country, even if you're poor in that rich country. But
yeah,
stuff, and you're in the middle of Europe. You can reach every country from Switzerland. So yeah, and we had friends. We had a life already here.
Yeah.
So I guess those are the reasons why we didn't try an experience maybe in Germany and the language. I mean, if we decided to move to Germany, well, we don't speak German.
Yeah, so, now you got to learn another language.
Yeah.
So that's true. Did you ever think about staying in the States?
At some point, I thought that maybe that would be cool to try to stay there. But, when we did that record before I left, I made a promise to the other guys.
Sure.
And, well,
yeah,
I had to come back.
I get it.
I had to.
Just curious, I want to ask you about some of my favorite Monkey3 songs, but what's been the best-selling Monkey3 album?
Well, I think it's the previous one that it's called The Fifth Sun.
Yes, great album.
In 2013, I think.
Yeah, 2013. Yeah, great album. It's got 7 songs on it. Great record.
I think it's the best-selling one.
Yeah, very good record. Let me ask you about a couple of my favorite Monkey3 songs, and I could have picked any 2 songs pretty much, but there's a song on Beyond the Black Sky. It's called Black Maiden, and that was from 2011. That is such a cool song, man. It's a very long song. It's like a victory song, but there's also like a ballad at times. And I was curious, when you make these long songs, because that song's like 9 minutes, do you know when you write it, do you know it's going to be a long song, or is that how it just evolves as you guys work the material in the studio?
That's how the song evolves. I mean, we don't plan to do long songs. I mean, we're working on one idea, and then another one jumps in, and it's like trying to tell a story, and at some point it's okay. I feel that the story is not finished, so you have to write another chapter until you think you have an ending, basically. Yeah. But if I remember right, that song is based on a jam session we did, and I think it's it's kind of a blend between different jam sessions, you know, one idea from one jam and then another idea from another jam session that was a bit put together, you know, and then reworked as a song.
The song before it too, 1001. Those two songs, they're great. I mean, they're both. I play them all the time together. I always seem to, because I'm looking at my music counts, and they've both been played the same number of times. So it seems like I always play them back to back. Man, great stuff, real good. Then you have an album in 2009 called Undercover, which is just a bunch of really cool cover songs.
Yes.
What? And I love. And I'll tell you, this was funny, and I think I told you this when I first contacted you. I was listening to, you did a great cover of Once Upon a Time in the West, which is a Dire Straits song. And I was listening to it in the gym, and I loved the cover of it. And I said, man, I need to get a hold of this guy and see if I can find out who this is and see if I can get him on the show. Because I just, sometimes a piece of music like just makes you feel like you're on top of the world when you listen to it, right? And I've listened to that. That's how a lot of your music makes me feel, to be honest with you. But I love that cover. What made you pick? That's not a song a lot of people cover. I don't think
that's not a Dire Straits song. It's a song from the movie Once Upon a Time in the West.
Oh, but it's Mark Knopfler though, doesn't he do it?
No.
Yeah, Dire.
It's from the movie, from the Sergio Leone's movie.
Oh, you know what? Dire Straits does a version of that.
All right, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's right. But it's from Sergio Leone movie. That's right. Once Upon a Time in the West. Yeah, Dire Straits does it. A great a long song too.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But actually, the version on the Undercover record is a live version of that song. Yeah. It's been recorded live. But we did a studio version that appears on the previous record, which is the 39 Laps album.
Yes.
And the album ends with Once Upon a Time in the West. That's the studio version of it. And actually, it's a funny story because we weren't supposed to record that song.
Oh, really?
And, yeah. And basically, what happens is here in Lausanne, back in the days, now they don't do it anymore, but they used to do a show on just one day. They would bring a lot of rock bands only from Lausanne, and each band has to do a couple of covers. And each year there's a different theme that you have to pick. And that particular year, the theme was you have to pick a song that the artist name start with the same letter as your band name. As we are Monkey3, we had to pick something that started with an M. And we thought, okay, but, well, let's play some Motorhead or whatever. But we are instrumental. So we said, okay, we like movies, we like Sergio Leone movies. Well, Ennio Morricone start with M.
There you go.
And we did that cover, and we only did that cover for that special show we did, only. But a couple of days later, we were supposed to start the studio session from the 39 Laps record. And in the studio, we said, okay, but that cover sounds pretty cool. Let's just record it and we see what happens. And finally, it ended up on the record.
Great version, man. And you do a version of Kashmir on there.
Yeah.
And I think later on, don't you do a Pink Floyd cover?
Yes.
Of
the One of These Days.
Yeah, what a great man. I actually saw, Government Mule?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Warren Hines, actually.
I went to, you know how they always have two shows at the Beacon Theater on the 30th of December?
Yeah.
I went in 2011. I took my son up there, not for New Year's Eve, the night before. And it was like, they did a bunch of Pink Floyd stuff, and they opened up with One of These Days. And the next song on that Floyd record that follows it, but man, great. It was such a good version. It was really good. And they had the same music, the background chanting in
Yeah.
the original Floyd song. I don't know. I guess they got the licensing or whatever, but where they
Oh, no.
they covered something, made something sound like it. It was great, man. But your version is fantastic.
But you know, we like a couple of years ago we played a summer festival in Germany, which is how they I don't remember the name right now. The Burg Erzberg Festival. It's like a really old EP fest. They do it since '68.
Oh, cool.
It's like pre-Woodstock stuff, you know. And a couple of years ago, we were playing there, and we were playing on Sunday night, and we were closing the festival.
Wow.
And the day before, Goft Mule were playing, and they ended up the show playing the cover of One of These Days. And the day after, we did the same. We ended up the
That's
show.
cool, man. That's
So
are you a big Gilmour fan?
I do like a lot David Gilmour and Pink Floyd.
Yeah, great, beautiful player. Yeah, man, that's a good story about once upon a time in the West. So do you play that now as part of your standard? Because I'm sure people love it.
Yeah, but it depends. It's not in our regular set list, but we might play that song as an encore sometimes. Depends on the feeling, depends. But live, we tend to not play covers.
Right.
Because we prefer to play our own material. But sometimes, we still play as an encore One of These Days or Once Upon a Time in the West. We kind of do it.
Very cool. You're the primary writer, correct?
No, I mean, we write all together. Like everyone is at 25% in the band.
Okay.
4 guys, all equal, and we write all together.
All together, okay.
Then obviously, as guitar player, you tend to bring a lot more of the melodies and stuff like that. But yeah, we share the writing all together. It's like really a band effort.
You guys are very tight, and you've been that. Like your first album. I mean, your last record, you're just as tight as you were in your first album. That doesn't mean you haven't grown, but you've always been like, you guys have had great chemistry together, man.
Yeah, it's a Swiss precision.
Yes, right. Precision of a Swiss watch. That's right. This is a funny story. Do you know what a copywriter is?
Yeah.
So that's how I've made my living the last 20 years. And I use that line. I can't tell you how many sales letters I've written that it has the precision of a Swiss watch. Maybe 100 times I've written it. It's so funny that you said that. If I'm selling whatever, what's ahead for you guys? What's on the, you got a new record coming up. Talk about that. And what do you plan on doing tour wise? And
so, yeah, we have a new album coming out 12th of April, still on Napalm Records. Yeah, it's just been, I'm still into it at the moment, so it's tough to really talk about it right now. But I think with that record, which will be our 8th album, I think, we kind of went back a little bit to the early years of the band. On the previous record, we did some mellower stuff, slower, more proggy, and we tried to add some vocals and stuff like that. It's fine, but wanted to go back to our roots, and I think the new album, I won't say violent, but it's harder than the previous one, and we went again more on the let's say psychedelic side.
Great.
And heavy stuff. 100% instrumental, lot of guitars, let's say it like
That's
that.
great. That's great.
Driving guitar. And we have a special guest on the record, one guitar player that is a special guest, but
can you announce it or you can't?
Not yet.
When
the album will be released, we can talk about that.
That's cool. I'm going to ask you after the interview ends, though. I
But
have to make a note. That's really cool, man. Very cool. So Did you grow up in Lausanne?
Yes, I grew up there.
What is that? A big city? Is that like a village? What is that like?
Well, for Switzerland, it's a big city.
Okay.
For the rest of the world, it might be small, but we have 250,000 people here.
Yeah. Okay. That would be a small.
Yeah, in the US,
a suburb, suburb maybe or something like that.
but here it's I think it's the fourth or fifth city of the country.
What was growing up like for you? Like, what was your childhood like growing up?
Probably standard,
Yeah.
I don't know. I grew up. I don't have brothers and sisters. I just have my parents here because they came from Italy to Switzerland to work, and so I was born here in Switzerland. So yeah, I grew up just with my parents because the rest of the family is elsewhere, not in Switzerland. But it helps to have friends and
yeah, of course,
which is nice. And yeah, just a regular childhood. I think no special stuff going on. I was a big football fan. Well, for you it's soccer.
Soccer, yeah.
I played soccer until I was 18 years old. I mean,
well, with two Italian parents, man, I would imagine that's probably the big sport, man, right? Yeah.
Actually, my dream was to be a professional soccer player.
Oh, so you were really good.
I was okay.
Was it competing with music?
Well, not really, because I started music at 17 and I ended up playing soccer at 18 because I think music was cooler.
Yeah.
But I still play soccer now, but not in a real team.
Yeah,
more like unofficial team,
So you must be in pretty good shape to do that because cardiovascular soccer is incredibly demanding.
Well, depends.
They run around 90-minute, isn't it like 90-minute halves or what is that? How long is a half? 45 minutes or something?
It's 90 minutes.
Yeah, that's incredibly demanding, man.
Well, now I play with people that are the same age as mine, or in our 40s, and the pace is soft.
Yeah, but still,
then we have a beer together,
That's cool, man. Boris, were there any like low points of your career musically, and like how did you get around them?
So with Monkey3, I had several low points in different situations, but there's a particular one that happened with Monkey3, which was really, really, really tough. Basically, after we released the 39 Laps record, the band was growing up pretty nicely. And we ended up signing a contract with a manager. And at the beginning, it was fine, things were working. But at some point, it became harder and harder with the manager. And it kind of destroyed the band. A lot of wrong decisions. We couldn't do anything because we were under contract, and it was quite difficult to get out of that contract. So at some point we weren't playing shows anymore. It was really difficult to produce music, and then relationship within the band was getting, more and more difficult. And it was the period of the Beyond the Black Sky record.
Yeah.
And then at some point, we said, okay, we have to stop all that. We have to stop the band. We have to broke up, finish. I mean, no more Monkey 3. We couldn't handle that anymore. It was really, really low, a low point. And we had a lot of debt too, a lot of money was out. We were not gigging anymore, so no money was coming in. Money from the record sales, we didn't know where was the money,
Oh shit.
So at some point, we said, okay, we had okay, the band is over. But then we found a way to end the contract with that manager. And we said, okay, let's give us one chance to put it back together. And some people from the old days went back to us and helped us to tour again. And then we did 2 years of touring just to pay the debts. But I mean, then we signed the deal with Napalm Records, and yeah, the band was back on track again. But it was, and then we did the Fifth Sun record, and that record kind of saved the band, I would say. But the tough thing is that we had to rebuild it again.
Yeah.
Which was really difficult. But, it happens.
Was there any, in looking back, were there any signs that this guy gave you that he was not good that you might have noticed, or that you would notice moving forward again should a situation arise?
Not really at the beginning, it was all nice and charming, but then, one thing and then another one and then another one, then you start realizing that you're going nowhere, and the thing that you tried to build is getting destroyed by someone else.
Wow.
But I guess that happens to a lot of bands.
Yeah.
So that's one low point of my musical career so far. I had some others, but that one was the most tough one to live.
Yeah,
but
sure.
At least we learned something, and we know that the band is stronger than all those issues.
Yeah,
which is important too, I would say.
Is this guy still managing?
I don't know.
You don't see him, or you don't you don't hear of him anymore, or you don't run into him?
No.
Man, being a musician is tough enough,
Well, I think it's tough to do anything anyway.
Yes,
I think
it is.
Everything has its issues, and but that's part of being a musician and being a part of the business. Sometimes it happens. I mean, we can blame that guy, but we can also blame ourselves because we said yes.
Sure.
So, I think that, yeah, we did some wrong choices, and we have to blame also ourselves for those choices,
And I happen to think that's a healthier thing to do. And I usually try to find responsibility, because if you find, for me anyway, I feel like if I could find responsibility, I don't feel like a victim as much, and I can forgive my mistake. It's easier to forgive my mistake than for me to feel like I was a victim. I don't like that feeling,
And that move forward.
Yeah, yeah, right. And then you learn the lesson, and you say, okay, I'll be a little smarter next time. So I think that's a healthier thing, man.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Let's talk about some gear, and I wanted to talk about your playing too. You have a very unique style of playing. It's a very, as I wrote here, a healthy mix of blues, psychedelic, stoner, space rock, progressive. But I also hear Italian music in there and classical influences. And I was wondering, is this like something you had maybe worked on over time, or it just came natural as your playing evolved?
I didn't work that thing much. I think it's just a casual thing. Probably from some music I heard when I was a kid, or might come from the influence of Carlos Santana. maybe a little bit, because I do remember that the first show I saw in my life was Carlos Santana.
Oh, really?
Because basically my parents were big fans of Carlos Santana, and he was coming here to Lausanne to play a show, and my parents didn't find a babysitter for that night, so they had to go to the show. So that was my first show ever.
That's cool.
Carlos Santana, and I still dig, well, the old school Carlos Santana.
Sure.
What he did in the late 60s, early 70s, I think it's pretty outstanding.
Incredible.
And I really like his playing. Well, I like the music he's playing, but then his guitar playing, what I like about it is he means every note he's playing. It's really soulful.
Very.
When you listen to Santana, you don't care if he has the right techniques or if he's good or not good. You don't care about that. You just care about the story he's telling and the tone.
Yeah. Oh, his tone is incredible.
Yeah.
Man.
Well, it's his tone. You cannot copy him.
No, and you know it's him, whether he's playing an SG or a PRS, man. You know he's playing it. Yeah, very true.
Actually, there's no point in copying someone anyway. So, but the spirit of it and the way he used the instrument to tell a story, I think it's pretty outstanding. I really like that. I can hear that in David Gilmour's playing too.
Oh,
you know, and some other guys and also, but those were big influences for me, among others, obviously.
What other concerts have you seen in Switzerland that were pretty good growing up?
Well, I saw a lot of shows, but one that I really, really, really remember was in a really small venue from a Canadian band, Voivod.
Oh, yeah. I know them.
And they were playing in Switzerland in a really small venue. We were like 50 people. They were just releasing the Phobos record. And I'm not even a metal fan, but that concert was so intense and so powerful that I had really special memories about that show. And it was like, well, more than 20 years ago, something like that.
Let me look something up, man. I have some of their stuff. VOIVOD, right?
Exactly.
No, I can't find it here. I have some of their. I think I have a record of theirs because I don't have anything on my iTunes, but I know I have a Voivod record. Then they're really good. It's funny. I haven't heard that name in a long time. I haven't heard that name in ages.
Well, that was one particular show, and the energy they were able to give to the audience, even if we were only 50 people, was like awesome. I think they were an awesome live band, and that show was really intense for me.
Very cool, man.
Oh, that's one show I remember.
Hey, let's talk about some guitars. What's your primary guitar that you go to, and what would be also number 2 and 3?
Well, I play mostly Gibson Les Pauls. That's my go-to guitar. Well, the story is that probably my favorite guitar player is Jimi Hendrix, since I'm a little kid. And when I started playing guitar, I had a bit of money left, and I said, okay, I can buy a nice guitar. And I went to a music shop to buy Stratocaster, because I was a Hendrix fan. But then I noticed that I had enough money to buy a Les Paul. And I did look at the shape, and I was like, wow, that's a beautiful guitar.
Yeah, it is.
So a Les Paul. And since then, I'm mostly a Les Paul player, just because it's the way I started, and makes me feel like Jimmy Page sometimes.
What Les Pauls? What years are your Les Pauls?
Well, that Les Paul, I bought it in 92 or 3, and I still have it, and it's still my backup guitar for live sessions. But my main one, at least when I play with Monkey3, is a 57 gold top, but it's a reissue one. I mean, it's not a real 57.
Yep.
Because I don't have.
You don't have $250,000 lying around?
No. But I think it's a pretty great guitar. And that's my main live guitar. Although for some years I played some Paul Smith guitars, some PRS that I still have now. I have a nice PRS from 1989 there.
Oh, wow.
And I used it a lot in studio because I think they're pretty outstanding guitars and they stay in tune.
Oh, yeah.
And I used to play that guitar a lot too. And that's basically it. Sometimes I use some Fender Strats, mostly in the studio, or when I'm doing cover stuff, or when I'm working bands, stuff like that. Sometimes I tend to use some Strats because they are versatile. But yeah, I would say my main guitar stays a Gibson Les Paul. I think that's the one.
That 57, is that P90s?
No, P90s is the 56.
Okay.
54 and 56. 57 is the first one with the humbuckers.
The PAFs.
Yes, yeah.
Gotcha. So that's a big, thick neck. That 57.
Yeah.
That's, yeah. Are you a big guy? You tall?
No, not really. I'm a standard guy.
Yeah.
But I do like fat necks.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, the resonance of the notes is different, and the sustain is different. And I use pretty heavy strings, so I need something to grab, especially when I'm doing bands and stuff like that. Because I use 12s.
Oh wow, those are
down, but still 12s.
Still, those are thick, man.
So when you have heavy gauge strings with a thin neck, then the tension might get weird on the instrument. So with a fat neck, you can really grab the instrument and hold it. The feeling is a bit different. Obviously, it's not a fast neck, but you can still play fast if you can. I mean, Joe Bonamas, I can do it. So. He's playing some fat necks too, and I mean, he's amazing. He's an amazing player.
For sure, man. Hey, what is your favorite song that you wrote?
The next one.
That's a good answer.
Maybe the song Icarus from the Fifth Sun record. I had the feeling that we have all our stuff in that one particular song.
I'm going to go back and listen to that after this. Is it hard? Is there access to a lot of guitars in Switzerland? Like, is there a lot of guitar shops, or is it limited, or do you have to go to England or someplace else to get a variety?
No, we don't have a lot of guitar shops, but the ones that we have have really good stuff in there. Yeah. And anyway, you can also buy stuff on the internet if you want to.
Sure.
But usually I tend to go to the music shop because I like to talk to the people, and try stuff, and and then they know you. You always go there, the same one. And they have pretty much everything a guitar player needs.
Yeah.
Means a guitar, strings, a cable, and an amp.
What do you play? What amps do you play through?
I play Marshall Plexis.
Oh, from the 70s.
Well, it's not one from the 70s because they're too expensive. I have a reissue. That's an unwired one, but it has been muddied a lot now. It's nothing to do with a standard reissue, But that's the way. Well, I mean, that's the amp.
Yeah, Marshall Plexus.
Like all knobs on 10.
I like that, man. All knobs on 10.
Yeah, use an attenuator because if not, it's too loud. But yeah, that's my go-to amp for live. In studio, it might be different. You know, for example, for the new record that will come out soon, I use a Friedman.
Oh, really? Okay.
Which is really martially sounding, you know, really close to a Plexi, but with some other features, you know, more options, and very consistent, I would say. I think he's doing like amazing amps, expensive but amazing. I think they're worth it. They're worth the price, I think, because they're really amazing tools to play music.
Where did you get turned on to the Friedman amps?
Because I look around on the internet, you know, some music shows, music blogs, and stuff like that. People talking, and you know, different magazines or whatever, you know. And it's where I saw some Friedman amps. Then you can listen to them. Then I also saw some guys playing those amps, and they are pretty consistent, and I think they sound pretty good. So I bought one for myself, and I used it in the studio. But for live, I think I still prefer to play with the Marshalls. You know, there's something unique about a cranked up Marshall, I think.
Plus, it looks so cool when you just have a Marshall up there, man. It's just the whole vibe is, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I just use the head because the cabinet, I have something different going on there. I tweak a lot with I mean, usually a lot of guitar players don't think much about the speakers, but the sound has a lot to do with the speakers. I mean, as soon as you change the speaker, you get a completely different tone. And so I messed a lot with different speakers and stuff until I found one that I thought was nice for what I like. I mean, for my own tastes, obviously, and that fits with the Plexi. So sometimes I use different combinations of speakers and stuff.
What speakers do you like? Because there's a lot of guitar geeks listen to this.
In the end, at least for live, because in the studio I think it's different, but for live, at the moment, well, it's been several years now, I have G12 H30s from Celestion that are loaded in an old Mesa Boogie rectifier cab, which is wider and bigger than a Marshall cab, so you get tighter bass going on. You know, the bass is tighter and more punchier, I think. But I did play also a lot with old greenbacks that were great if you are two guitar players in a band, you know, with a really tight mid-range. But as the only guitar player in the band, I think the G12 H30 pretty nice, and they have a pretty wide sound, but without being too modern, you know, which I think fits the Marshall Plexi.
Yeah, for sure.
The amp is different. You know, with the Friedman, you might want to use some V30s or even some EV speakers might work well because they have a lot of clarity and punch, so fits the amps. So it depends on what amps you're using and which guitar you're using.
Sure. Thanks, man. Desert Island Discs. You familiar with that expression?
Yeah.
All right. So what would be your top three? No particular order, just for now, because this will change obviously any 5 minutes.
It's every minute.
Yeah.
Well, except for one that it's always there, always. It might be the Jimi Hendrix Band of Gypsies.
Yeah, great record.
The live record. I mean, who can compete against Machine Gun? You know? No one, nothing. That's the most moving piece of music that I ever heard in my life.
Machine Gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great track.
It's not music anymore, and Hendrix is not playing guitar anymore. It's just like talking to you straight to your head.
Yeah.
It's wow.
Channeling right to your soul, man. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, there's something happening that is completely unique, and it moves me a lot when I listen to that. So I would say that one. And then, it's tough, but yeah, maybe Wish You Were Here from Pink Floyd.
Yeah, great. You mean, yeah.
I mean, there's something in that record that is so deep. When you listen to a track like Welcome to the Machine, there's something that's scary into it. And I don't know, there's something unique. And well, for me, that record is like what I guess that's what Pink Floyd were looking for since the beginning. It's why probably after Wish You Were Here, the band kind of falls apart. I don't know, but that's for me, it's a masterpiece.
I feel that way too about Dark Side and Wish You Were Here. I mean, when you listen to this, if you listen to some good headphones or earbuds or something, the stereo, that's like how music, that's like perfect, man. So I feel the same way about those two records. So I know exactly how you feel. It's very,
it's
very intense, very intense, man. Yeah.
And then I would pick, probably one of my childhood best record, something that I liked when I was a kid and I still really dig now. I mean, and I think we also we're listening to that record a lot where we are on tour, in the tour bus. And I mean, that's for me the best hard rock album ever by far. And it's Let There Be Rock from AC/DC.
Let There Be Rock. Yeah, I remember that.
Basically, I think I pretty much like two bands. AC/DC with Bon Scott and AC/DC with Brian Johnson.
Two bands, yeah.
But yeah, that record, I mean, Angus Young is one of my favorite players ever. I mean, he plays blues stuff, but with his own unique voice. He's got a great left-hand vibrato, great timing. The way he's like talking with the instrument, but with a lot of joy.
Yeah.
And that record is so wild. It's like, it's what hard rock should be, wild.
Definitely.
Straight in your face and wild. And when I listen to that record, I feel like I'm still a kid.
Yeah. It's hard not to feel an energy surge when you're listening to that record, man.
It's raw, and Bon Scott is amazing on the record, and the songs are great, and for me it's an amazing record. Yeah. Anyway,
those are three good records, man. Hey, so this is a tough question. For like every musician, it's a tough question. What do you like most about yourself?
I don't give up. Never.
That's awesome. How about the flip side? Is there something that you would want to change about yourself?
A lot of things, probably. Maybe being a bit more patient.
I'll tell you what, though, man, you were pretty patient when you said that. You knew you had to come to GIT and you were going to enjoy it. You weren't that was incredibly patient.
Yeah, but in my everyday life, I'm not that patient. I have a lot of temper.
Yeah.
Some other stuff. Maybe practice more.
Do you practice? Do you practice a lot now?
Less than when I was younger. but I work more, recording live, um, teaching and stuff like that. So uh, in a way, I, I play a lot, but just sit down and practice some new stuff or learning some new music, for
Hmm.
example. Uh, I don't do that much anymore. I'm being lazy a little bit.
Hmm.
But I guess, sometimes it happens.
Do you have kids?
No, no,
Oh,
I don't have kids.
okay. Because I was going to say, if you have kids, sometimes you got no choice. You can't. Your time is not your own.
At the moment, I don't have kids, but maybe later we'll see.
I'm always interested in asking this question with people that are from other countries because I often learn a lot. What's the most important thing that your dad taught you and your mom taught you?
Never lie. Always tell the truth. And always say to people what you think, even if they don't like it.
You know what's interesting? I love that, and I'm that way, and I try to be that way, direct, without being offensive. But um, I have found as much as people perceive Americans as uh, you know, uh, in your face, out, forward. I have found most people from other countries are much more direct on the whole than Americans, because I think a lot of Americans feel awkward. They don't want to hurt someone's feelings, and so they won't say. But like, for example, you go to Germany and you ask someone how they're feeling about something, they're going to give you the direct, no bullshit answer. They're not worried about what your feelings are. They're just being truthful with and I would rather have that, because then oh, okay, at least you know what you're working with, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
prefer that. I prefer that. Yeah.
But it, sometimes you meet people that kind of get offended by the truth, or at least what you think is true for you.
Sure, sure.
Uh, uh, they don't face the fact that you might think in a different way than them.
Sure.
Well, that's how it works.
Yeah.
Everyone has his feelings, and we cannot all agree all the time.
Nor should we. It'd be a very boring place.
Yeah, exactly.
um, what would you say your biggest business or personal win has been?
To still be in Monkey3 after all those years and still being there recording and touring.
That's great, man. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it's been a long journey now, and still being there and doing it. I think it's something nice. It's your life.
It's great, man.
It doesn't matter if you're successful or not. It's just doing it. That it's the whole journey that makes it worth it. I would say that.
That's great, man. I'm going to ask you just a couple more questions. Do you have any hobbies or interests outside of music?
Yeah, well, soccer, which is my main hobby and passion, I would say. And I do watch a lot of movies because I really like movies. And I found since I stopped smoking cigarettes, I found some kind of interest into vaping. So I built myself my own vaping machines and stuff.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
That's kind of cool, man.
So yeah, it's interesting to do that too.
That's cool, man. You've been all over. What's your favorite places? There's another cool thing. People in Europe travel so much freer than we do. you know.
Uh,
And I think some of it's because you sort of have to, because like you can't hang out in Switzerland because it's only so big, right? So you have to go to at least whereas in the States it's so big here, we can never leave and
yeah,
have a very fulfilling travel life, you know. But what are some of the cooler places that you've traveled that you like?
we by playing music or just on my own.
Either way, yeah, either way.
Well, in the end, I did like being in Hollywood though, because it was a nice experience. But obviously, I would say that when I go back to Italy, it's always something nice because I get to see some part of my family, and it's like all the origins and stuff. I mean, it's where I'm from, and I feel at home there.
Cool.
But in the end, every places I've been has been interesting, and I learned something from every places, and every place is different, but beautiful with a lot of great people there. You just need to meet them and talk to people, see what's around, and But you have something interesting to find in every places you go.
Sure.
Basically, I think.
No, I agree. Any chance, is it possible for Monkey3 to ever tour here?
Maybe we'll see what happens.
Oh, man.
I don't know. I don't know. Because it's tough for underground European bands to come to the US. It's possible, but it's tough.
Yeah.
And might cost a lot of money.
That's the problem. Yeah. Unless you get on some big festival.
Yeah, so we'll see what will happen with the new record, but the door is open. I mean, why not? But the main thing is focus on Europe, obviously. But if there's an opportunity to come to the US, we will come. And I know that some people there want to see us, and yeah, it would be cool. We'll see. We'll work something out, and maybe at some point we'll come to the US.
That would be great, man. Well, it's funny.
Yeah.
My wife is from the UK, so I always say, sometimes I'm talking to people and I say I should go. And she goes to visit her family a couple of times a year. I never go, and I'm always saying, man, maybe I should go. And if you're, how far is England from, let's say, Switzerland or Germany? I could fly there and see you do a show or something. That's not very realistic,
Yeah, well, it's not that close, but it's not that far either.
Yeah, but once I'm over there already, it's can't. That's half the battle, right? So it's a couple hour plane flight is nothing.
Well, if you go from London to Geneva, it's like 1 hour 30, something like that.
Yeah, that's nothing. That's like driving from where I live to Disney World. It's it's easy, man. Last question, Boris, and thank you for everything. I really appreciate your time. I had a lot of fun. It's been good getting to know you, and it's nice to chat with somebody, like I said, that I've been a fan of your music, and I've really, really enjoyed your music very much. It's very powerful. It's very emotional, and I'm glad I got to connect with you. Last question: what's been the biggest change in you over the last 10 years, and have you made some of that change on purpose, or has it just been a natural part of aging?
10 kilos.
Up or down? That's a good answer.
And it was not intentional.
Oh, that was good. They say you really know a language well when you can make jokes in it.
All right.
Right? So there you go. Is there another answer, or you want to stick with that?
I don't know. We'll stick with that.
All right, man. Hey, listen, let me tell everybody where they can find your music. First of all, it's Boris De Piante. His last name is Depiante. I said that right, correct?
Yeah. That's right. Correct.
And the band is Monkey3, and you can find them online at Monkey3 Official. If you're into space rock, progressive rock, stoner rock, but very heavily psychedelic blues influence, you will love this band. They're phenomenal. The new album's coming out April 12th. Can I say the title of it?
Yeah.
Okay. It's called Sphere, Sphere, and hopefully Boris will come back on the show and we'll do a separate show to talk about the record. And I'm going to play a Monkey3 song as we exit because Boris asked me to do that, and I'm more than happy to. So stick around, and I'll be doing that just at the end. Also, if you live in Switzerland, pay close attention. And you want a guitar lesson from Boris in person, or if you're going to be traveling through Switzerland, connect with the school in Geneva called Music Arts and tell them that you would like to take some music lessons from Boris, and they will put you two together. And that's it, man. Any final words of wisdom?
Cheers to everyone, and keep playing guitar.
There you go, brother. Thank you. All righty, man. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this interview, please share it with a friend on your social media channels. We appreciate your support. Thanks again to Boris De Piante and Monkey3 for spending time with us. Please check out Boris's music and Monkey3's music and support these guys. Make sure you go to everyonelovesguitar.com. Sign up to get on our newsletter list so you and I can connect. And most important, remember that happiness is a choice, so choose wisely. Be nice, go play your guitar, and have fun. Till next time, peace and love, everybody, and I'm out.